Every one of us carries a story we don't always talk about. The quiet battles, the heavy days, the moments that cracked us open, and the moments that stitched us back together. We've all stumbled. We've all broken. We've all stood at the edge of something we weren't sure we could come back from. And somehow, through strength we didn't know we had, we rose anyway. Because inside every person, there is a spark that refuses to die, a hope that refuses to stay silent, a heart that refuses to give up no matter how dark the night gets. And that's why we're here, to listen, to learn, to witness the courage it takes just to be human. Every soul you hear on the show has walked through something that shaped them, sharpened them, and carried them forward. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a battle. Everyone has a journey. And this is where you come to hear it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Uncle Jimmy's podcast, where we cut through the noise, expose the lies, and get straight to what actually works for real people living real lives. Today's guest is a straight-up warrior in the wellness trenches. He's not pushing pills or quick fixes. He's hunting root causes. A doctor of chiropractic, master of functional nutrition, applied kinesiology, and detox protocols. Over 20 years in the clinic, he's helped thousands ditch chronic fatigue, gut chaos, hidden inflammation, and early onset threats like brain fog and heart risks naturally. His story starts in 8th grade, battling weight and poor health. He cuts sugar cold turkey and drops 45 pounds in one summer. Then at 19, his dad drops from a heart attack. Boom. That tragedy lights a fire. He dives deep. Texas Chiropractic College, studying under nutrition legends. And then he went on to build the Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in 2007 with his wife. Now he's on podcasts, HEA, YouTube, and his own Dr. Chapa wellness feed, preaching vibrant living backed by God's natural resources. No BS. He's the guy saying the modern diet is killing us quietly, but big pharma's got it wrong, and your body can heal itself if you give it the right tools. Faith, food, freedom, he ties it all together. If you're tired of feeling fine while falling apart, if you want the red pill on health in America, buckle up. Dr. Aaron Chapa, welcome to the show, brother. Let's get real.
Man, Uncle Jimmy, that is legit. That is a great intro. I'm really excited to take that all in, guys. I hope that y'all don't just I don't know if you can, that might be one of the best introductions, because you painted a very, very real picture in a minute and a half of my life story. And man, it does. Like, you can take it all the way back to 8th grade. I look back and I just go, only through God's providence, God's sovereignty, did I get made fun of for being overweight. I was on the swim team, and I was a good swimmer, believe it or not, even overweight. It's all about form, not necessarily about size. And I was walking to the locker room, and this girl just goes, "What is he doing wearing that? He is so fat." And that old saying that says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words will never hurt me," is a bunch of hooey.
No doubt.
Because as a kid, going through puberty, already insecure, I'm sure people can relate. That was stone crushing, man. It was a gut punch. It was a wake up call. And yeah, man, if that was the worst of it, that's one thing. But I look back and go, why, Lord, did I have the gumption just to walk out of school, not even check out, just walked out of school, went home, had a talk with myself in the mirror, and said, Chop. So I used to call myself Chop. What are we going to do to make sure we never get made fun of for being overweight again? And, what's interesting is I had high cholesterol. My parents, were a part of the 1980s low fat SnackWell's craze. They convinced my parents, to take me off of butter, put me on margarine, which margarine is one chemical reaction away from plastic, folks. And we're still putting it on it's in most of your dressings. It's in most of your baking goods, and you're putting plastic in your body, and it will wreck and ruin your health. It will wreck and ruin your liver faster than you can shake a stick at. They took me off of eggs. They took me off of bacon because high cholesterol is going to kill my heart, right? And what people don't realize is cholesterol only goes up because of inflammation. And inflammation was present because I was gobbling up sugar in the form of cookies, candies, Coke, sodas, and ice cream. And my favorite, as I always tell people with the last name Chapa, I'm Mexican. But I don't look Mexican, and nor do I speak Spanish. So the only thing that I can come to realize is my right leg is Mexican. And but I grew up on tortillas and sugar and butter and Taco Tuesday. I was Taco Tuesday and before Taco Tuesday was a thing.
Was a thing, yeah.
And so I was a product of my of a double working mom and dad. Mom and dad were at the workhouse. So what do kids do left to their own devices? They eat conveniently. I was eating 4 to 5 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches a day on
In
my
8th
own
grade.
in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
And probably 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade,
Yeah, before that, yeah.
and then when they took me off the fat, I was hungry. You see, fat foods like butter, lard, animal proteins that have higher fat content, that has a natural satiation rate, which means if you eat 8 ounces of meat, you'll be full in about 30, 40 minutes. And just naturally, your body just shut it down because your leptin hormones kick in, and your body just says, "Hey, I'm good."
Yeah.
If you eat 8 tubs of popcorn at the movies, you can do that and not even think twice about it, and 2 sodas. Well, how? Well, how's that possible? Because carbs don't have that natural satiation rate. So you just keep gobbling it up. Plus, they have all those fake spices on there that cause you to what? Want more of it. It's addictive, chemically addictive. And the food game is such that lately I came to me that, he who owns, controls the food, controls the world. He who controls your medical rules the world. And so it's interesting to figure out that medical doctors today, and I've been working with different clinicians across the country, and I've seen this pattern time and time again, is insurance companies are actually playing medicine, and they are driving healthcare in our country. So fast forwarding from me being an overweight kid, I had this conversation with myself with no medical background. Again, God's providence. And I said, no longer is this going to happen. What changes can I make? And the one change that I knew was I was drinking a truckload of sugar tea, Kool-Aids, juice boxes, Gatorades, and soda.
Yeah.
And so you know what? I said, if it's got any sugar in as a liquid, it's out. So I took out every bit, cold turkey, all sugar out of my liquid sugar content out of my diet overnight. I mean, my parents were genuinely like, what's changed? Like, why? And I never told them. I mean, looking back, I never told them what happened. I just kind of was like, we're going to have to make some changes,
Yeah.
And,
Now, was that a shock to the body, doc?
look back then, I think I had so many stem cells floating around in my body that no, it's kind of like, we watch kids today, they can heal and recover lickety split. And so I didn't have any detox reactions. I didn't have any headaches. As a matter of fact, if anything, headaches went away because I did at 13 struggle with migraines, but at 14 they had already started dissipating a little bit anyway. By 15 though, the weight issue was the biggest issue I had medically. I mean, high triglycerides, high cholesterol, and then that's when the whole fear factor came in. And that's something that's interesting that I try to tell people. 1977, we made a big shift in fat content and information. They basically began to tell people that high fat caused you to be fat, high fat caused cholesterol problems, and then cholesterol caused heart disease and strokes, which if you go back and look at cholesterol medications in the 90s, it straight up says on the label, this has not been proven to reduce cardiovascular incidents or stroke. You know what I mean? And so it's all a big like fear mongering lie. And that led to me going through and watching my parents work through some dietary shifts. And I knew my dad had some like medical issues. I didn't really know to what varying degree, but apparently he had some stents put in. Apparently he was on some statins, which is a cholesterol lowering med. He was on a couple blood pressure medications, but I didn't know this at the time. I mean, I've come to realize this, like hindsight, what he was going through. But living in the house, never saw it. Never, I knew where the drugs were, but I didn't really know what they were doing, and
What they were doing.
And
Yeah, and you're a kid, you're not gonna, look through and see.
yeah, I mean, there was no reason to. So
Yeah.
interestingly, I remember though, for the last 6 months of his life, he had to take food with his morning meds. So me, him, and my mom would go to breakfast every morning, and we'd go to this little taqueria type place, and I'd get pancakes or migas or tacos or whatever I'd get, and he got, big old breakfast, and he was a good, 150 pounds overweight himself. And, but he could take his meds with that food. So I had the good fortune, again, God's sovereignty, to give me 6 months of time with my mom and my dad
Every
together,
morning.
at, and just focus, just conversational attention. And I took it. Why would I take advantage of it? I don't know. Like, what young 19-year-old does that, right?
Yeah.
And
No, but that sounds like almost like, 6 months, right? And you're going to breakfast with them every morning, right? And it's like, as you get older, right? My dad, I was 26 when I lost my dad, and my mom was a couple years ago, so I was 30, I think 37 when I lost my mom, but my dad when I was 26. No, you don't think about it, right? Until you get older and you say the small little things, right? So just imagine you, 19, for 6 months you're going to breakfast with them, and it's like, you look back now and you're like, wow, that was like some of the greatest times and greatest conversations we had, because you didn't know anything was going to happen. You know,
right, right.
you're 19. Any 19-year-old kid's probably like, I want to sleep in, or I don't want to go to breakfast every morning.
Well, it was interesting. So going back, like, I lost every bit of that 45 pounds, it was actually 54 pounds of weight loss inside of a summer. I
Yeah.
lost so much weight going into my freshman year of high school that I had to reintroduce myself to people. People had no idea. They were like,
No clue who you are.
none. And interest, the coolest thing for me is I got to look back, and the same girl that made fun of me wanted me to take her to prom my senior year, and I got to tell her no.
No way. That was your little revenge of getting her back.
But I
So,
guess
Doc,
I owe her a little bit of grace, because without that spark, I don't know that I would have made the health decisions that I made, and or recognized the shift and change when Dad passed.
yeah.
And that, looking back at him, that changed my whole trajectory in life, you know, and what the devil meant for evil, God turned around for good. And now I'm able to take that good and spread it all around.
Yeah, it's like she said you on, be on a path of, change.
Yeah.
Obviously it hurts when you're a kid and someone says that. I'm always been a big guy, and you hear it, like you said in the beginning, sticks and stones, but you try to play it off like it doesn't bother you, but it really does. For anyone that, if there are any, young kids listening, one thing is don't, be supportive, be a friend, don't be an asshole.
Amen. It's rule number 5 in our family. Don't be a jerk. You know what I mean?
Don't be a jerk. Exactly. Yeah.
But again, look at your hat. Your hat says all hustle, no luck. It's intentional. It's focus. And when we are intentional and focused with a mission in mind, we can make mountains move. And I'm just really, looking back, again, at 19, I still really didn't have a clue on what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was probably heading for failure to launch syndrome. But again, God had a plan. And again, what the devil meant for evil, God used for good. And my dad, one particular morning, get this, Uncle Jimmy, like this one particular morning, I told him the night before, hey, I'm not getting up tomorrow morning. Me and my buddy are going out, and I'm not going to get home till late, and I'm not getting up early tomorrow. And it was a Friday morning. My dad was working 410s, and he was a chemical engineer, had a lot of stressors. And all I remember at that early morning was a silhouette of a man in a doorway like this. And he just brought his hand down to his chest. Aaron, my chest, it hurts, Aaron. And I'm probably, with all, fairness, I think I was hungover. I was trying to process what was happening. And this is the day of cell phones and cordless phones. And I go, what the, and I jump up. I'm like, okay, that wasn't normal. I grab my cordless phone. I grab my home phone, my cell phone, and I bolt, and I run to his room. By this time, he's crawling in bed. All right. So he's already kind of stripped down, and he's crawling in bed, just trying to find his center. And you can tell he is really having a struggle. He's suffocating. His eyes are bloodshot. And, and I'm over there like, all right, dude, what do I do? What do I do? He can't really talk to me. Like, he's kind of like, you can tell he is tripping out. And so I'm like, okay, he ain't helping me. So first thing I did, call 911. They're on the horn, and I tell them the story. They're on the way. I hang up with them. I call my mom. Because what do you do whenever you don't know who to call? You call mom. You know,
You call mom.
mom fixes it. And so my mom, dude, something's wrong with dad. Get your butt home. This is bad news, Barrett. I got the cops on the way, you know. And the cops took forever to get to the house. And in that moment of, I would say, sobriety, very, very surreal time, the world stopped. And I remember, I had my hand on his chest, rubbing through his chest hair, man. I could look in his eyes. His eyes were, he was kind of like coming to and fro, like where he could interact. And he had enough gusto. And these are the words that he left me with, which was, you know, I love you, I love your mom, and I love your brother. And I'm like, I'm, you know, I know, Dad, I love you too. Got, you know, this, we're gonna get you help, and trying to encourage him through it. But then the pain would come back, and his eyes were like just bugging right out of his head. And unfortunately, you know, he died in my arms of a heart attack because, you know, it took emergency medical, in this case, too long.
Yeah.
And this defining moment, and I think anybody that ushers a person to the pearly gates and doesn't get to go across with them and has to let them go really sees life differently from that point forward. And
Yeah.
that is where it all really shifted for me. The fragility of life and the appreciation of breath and the fact that I didn't have an elephant sitting on my chest and wishing, you know, or what I like to say, shoulding on myself that I didn't know to put nitroglycerin or aspirin or something down his throat. I didn't know what to do. You know, I felt helpless and I felt um, responsible. And what kind of, you know, pressure would be put on a 19-year-old? There was no sense, unless they had taught me. There's no way I could have been of service in that, you know,
In
stressful
that
time.
moment. Yeah.
And yet that is a defining moment that woke me up that something was blatantly wrong. Because I started asking questions, and my dad was a good patient. He had stents, he did cardio rehab, he took their drugs, he changed his diet to the low fat model, he did everything they told him to do, and it failed. And later, when I was about going into the alternative medicine field, I discovered that the American Heart Association diet is what he was on. And the more I researched it, I realized that it's a high carbohydrate diet.
Yeah.
And if you
No
go back
good.
Egyptian days, what grows in a desert? Nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so the Egyptians were harvesting grain, and grain, because they could store it in pyramids, which is basically modern day, their modern day refrigeration back then, or historical refrigeration. And grain that isn't cracked will last for years as long as it's not wet and moldy. And so they could crack it at years later. And that's why Joseph in the Bible, when he stored up grain for 7 years, they had so much grain stores, they were able to take over the land, take over the cattle, the possessions, take over people's lives through slavery, but yet they were selling grains. So grains are crutches for life. The American food pyramid talks about grains 6 to 11 servings a day as a baseline. That is the American Heart Association ploy. That is heart disease. And when Egyptians were dying in their 40s and 50s, it wasn't because they didn't know what they were dying from. So they did mummification for religious purposes, but also hopes that science would catch up and figure out what was causing it. And you know what it was? It was grains.
Brains.
Grains, grains, grains. Grains are crutches, guys. They're not staples. And so if your diet consists highly of grain content, bread, rice, cereal, rice, corn, these are delicacy foods. And delicacy foods drive blood sugar spikes, ups and downs, cause inflammation in the arterial system, stress out the valves of the heart, drive weight. Every 10 pounds, we are overweight. It's 1 mile of work our heart has to put up with. So recognizing that there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, but there are essential fatty acids, which means you need good healthy fats. And there are essential amino acids, which are great sources of protein. And so interesting that we have demonized fat. We've scared people even away from eating animal protein, like meat and stuff, because it drives cholesterol. That's what a lot of the modern day nutritionists are trained to believe, that animal fat, butter, and lard and tallow are bad for you. And that is such a big fat lie.
Lie. Yeah, it seems like, they get giving you the wrong information. The people that are supposed to be doing it the right way, really aren't doing it the right way. So, doc, conventional doctors, right, often dismiss functional medicine as alternative. What's the biggest failure in standard care that keeps patients sick and dependent?
Well, so when patients only do what they know how to do, they don't do what they necessarily want to do. And one of my favorite books is called Radical Leap. There's a section in there where this guru, leadership guru, is talking to one of his proteges. And he says to his protege, he goes, man, he was kind of at the end of his career and he was frustrated. And he told the young guy, he goes, man, nobody changes. Nobody's going to do anything. And the young guy says, why do you keep staying in the business then? And he goes, it pays too much. And the young guy says, man, the day that the change agent gives up on his patient or his people that he's coaching or directing to a point where he only is collecting a check, we're all in deep poop.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that I find that most, and I'm going to use the word most, contrary, and I know I can't judge every doctor out there, but the doctors that I have interacted with over 22 years, even in my own profession, they don't truly believe the power of food. Food is medicine. The ancient old Socrates, Aristotle, these guys talked about digestion. They talked about food as medicine and medicine as food. When we eat fake make-believe food, the best we'll ever have is fake make-believe health.
Yeah.
And so the reason people get stuck in paradigmal thinking is great marketing. They have been feared into believing the big fat lie, and the doctors they're listening to have been put on a pedestal to the point where he's God and he owns the knowledge base and he's got this doctoral education and you can't question it. And heck, they only spend 10 minutes in the room with you anyway. And hell, they don't even go over your blood work anymore. They just say, yeah, looks everything fine. Let's go on.
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
hey, your blood pressure's up today. And you go to say, well, but they pinched me when they did the blood pressure. They don't even let you get that out. And your blood pressure's high because they put you in pain and then they put you on a blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Or you go to a screening after church in the parking lot and you ate breakfast that morning. They poke your finger and tell you, oh, your cholesterol's high. You got to come on in. And the reality is we're not screening people for wellness. We're screening people for disease and we're looking for disease. We're not looking to teach people to change. And we've given up on the idea that people will change. And I believe alternative medicine is showing people a better way with better knowledge. New knowledge brings new choices. New choices bring new results every time. And so today's doctor in the Western world is so specialized in, say, neurology. They forget there's a heart. These cardiologists forget there's a brain. These digestive specialists forget that there's an immune system. I mean, they just focus on the one symptom that the person comes in with and forget that they're dealing with a full body person that has a lot of mechanisms of symptom patterns that they need to put together and package up and show a patient. And now the biggest challenge is the change is difficult, frankly difficult. It's steep because food wars, marketing dollars are against us. The food quality, the idea of fake food, there's more nutrition, Uncle Jimmy, in the box that the cereal comes in than the actual cereal substance that you're buying.
And I think, one of the biggest things I take from what you were just saying too is I think doctors now are so quick, right? Just to say, here's a blood pressure medication or here's a cholesterol medication instead of sitting there, right, for maybe an extra couple minutes and explaining to you, hey, why don't we try this? What are you eating? How's your digestion? How's this all going? And let's try something different instead of just forcing a pill. But I think the problem becomes, I think, as Americans, right? And you said the West, I think as Americans, we're so used to just going to the doctors. And if they say, you got to take 65 pills, you got to take the 65 pills. Because like you said, he's the doctor. He is the doctor. He has the degree on the wall, and I never thought of it, right? You just hit it on the head for me. they come in and sometimes like you're lucky if you even get 10 minutes nowadays,
Yeah.
you know,
Or heck, if you even see them at all, that you
if
get
you see them at
oftentimes
all.
get
Yeah.
their PAs or their nurse practitioners, and they don't see. I know my patients. I'm always shocked at what my patients go. How do you know all this about me? Well, I looked at your paperwork. I had you fill out 7 pages worth of paperwork,
And
and
that's
and
my
then
job.
how do you remember all this stuff? I said, because one, I'm practicing this work every day. So my mind is sharp because I'm not full of toxins. Everything I'm teaching you to do, I am not ever going to expect one of my patients or followers to do something I'm not willing to do. So if
To
I'm
do.
promoting it, it's because I'm either doing it, willing to do it, or have done it so many times, I'm just taking a current break from it. But I'm
Yeah.
coming right back. And
So
so
you're practicing what you preach.
all day, every day.
That's
That is
awesome.
key. That is key. That was one of the best pieces of advice for one of my mentors growing up through this process, that if you expect a patient to do what you're not willing to do or haven't done in a really long time, then don't expect your patients to follow you. And they can tell. It's like an energy, right? And so you're not going to catch me at the golden arches. I always tell patients the fastest way to the pearly gates is through the golden arches.
It's so true. So Doc, when it comes to gut health, it isn't just digestion. It's brain, immunity, mood. What's the number one hidden gut destroyer in the American diet that most people ignore?
Man, I call them gut bombs. All right. You're going to love this. So, first, let me just give you a quick physiology lesson. Okay. And I'll try to make it simple. So, there's 37 trillion cells in the body. Your first immune system is your skin, then the digestive tract, right? So, this protects us from the outside world, the environment around us. And we have ears that have membranes that protect. We have eyes that have mucous membranes. We have sinuses that have mucous membranes. All orifices have some kind of protective layer. But the digestive tract is the most fundamental, vulnerable penetration point. There's 28 feet of intestinal tract, and these little cells come together and they butt up to one another, and they're tight through what we call tight gap junctions. And these tight gap junctions are made up of 3 proteins, zonulin included and actomyosin, and they are held together and glued together like a chain link fence. And they provide protection on a lot of levels, immunity wise. So your first real immune system is in your digestive tract. And what happens is, if the gut bombs come down the pike into the stomach, into the small intestine, into the colon, they can begin to disrupt those cellular connections in the chain link fence. And now you got critters getting in, and you've got nutrients or things that you wish you had getting out. And so the gut lining has to stay and hold together in order to have good health. And that's not happening. We call that leaky gut. Leaky gut is more prominent in this country today because of these gut bombs. And these gut bombs are in your sauces. So if you are doing even just dressings and salad dressings, barbecue sauces, Lee and Perrins Worcestershire sauce, like all the good stuff, right? If you're getting Tony Chachere's, spices for the crab, boil or whatever, all this stuff is packed with these fake dyes, these artificial preservatives, this high intense processed MSG, monosodium glutamate, bad essential oils or processed seed oils, and high fructose corn syrup. So the 4 deadly food additive gut bombs that you're going to get exposed to probably in every pantry, every refrigerator, or every out to eat restaurant that you go to in the world today that we live in is high fructose corn syrup, partially hydrogenated seed oils, most commonly called canola oil, or what I call it con oil. And because a great big con is fake, rancid garbage, and it will clog up your liver for up to 6 months, in addition to gut bombing, boom, blowing up the gut lining. Artificial sugars like aspartame, the blue stuff on the table, that's that artificial stuff people put in their tea. The pink stuff, the saccharin, and the yellow stuff, sucralose, which I always try to help people understand. Why would you make a fake sugar so close to the word sucrose, right? We all know what sucrose is, table sugar, right? But yet sucralose, well, you got to have a degree to catch the crulose versus crose, because that's a weird Latin words, man. And so these guys knew exactly what they were doing whenever they brought that on board. So when you get high fructose corn syrup, a high processed, high heat treated, high chemically adulterated sugar that rapidly spikes your blood sugar, that rapidly disrupts your insulin. Your body goes into an inflammatory state, and one insulin spike, one cortisol spike from stress, one adrenaline spike from an emergency situation or just chronic stresses over time will shut off 6 fat burning hormones in the body. So it should be 2 times easier to lose weight, but we don't lose weight because we are sabotaging our body through insulin spikes and blood sugar spikes. So high fructose corn syrup, partially hydrogenated oils, metabolic dysfunction, thyroid dysfunction, gut dysfunction. The MSG, monosodium glutamate, which is a high processed spice that pretty much makes it where you can't eat just one. You never lose the law of diminishing returns. You just go back and keep eating, keep going, keep doing it again. And you eat yourself into a stupor. And that's where we get food comas, right? And then artificial sugars. And then 5th, the dyes. So there's 4 major gut bombs, but the 5th, the dyes, are a big deal because they are chemicals. So a lot of the MSG and the artificial sugars and the dyes, they come straight after the brain and they sabotage brain function. And so in the gut lining, when the gut begins to tear apart, your ability to manufacture B vitamins, which is energy, and your ability to manufacture brain chemicals called neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, catecholamines, all gets manufacturally disrupted. So can you imagine the major manufacturing facilities of the world shutting down today, and all of a sudden now we don't have the ability to get the resources we need? Well, this is exactly what's happening. When that gut begins to tear apart, you get miscommunication, misfiring, and you're not producing the B vitamins, neurotransmitters, and the immune system you need to defend yourself or to run basic physiology. And so that is all from just those 4, but really the 5 gut bombs that we just went through. And that is in so many foods that people are consuming today.
So you're just slowly killing yourself.
Slowly but surely, and is in such a way that you don't even know, though, what is causing it. Like people don't realize that the peanut butter they're buying has high fructose corn syrup and partially hydrogenated oil in it and roasted rancid nuts.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that the fastest way to kill a monkey, the reason you can't feed animals at a zoo nuts or your food, is because they're on a strict diet, because they don't feed them garbage because they're too expensive. Interesting. We take better care of animals than we take care of our own selves, our own people.
Ourselves. So, Doc, faith is central, right? Living well clinically with God's resources. How has leaning on Scripture shaped your view when patients face incurable diagnosis?
Well, so when I get into, I like vitamins, all right? So I believe that if you have a nutritional deficiency, it can cause symptoms. If you have an organ that's dysfunctional, you can cause symptoms. If you have organ dysfunction, you can cause deficiency in nutrients. It can go that way. Or if you have nutrient deficiencies, you can starve the organ and have problems. Well, interestingly, we also need vitamins spiritually. The best vitamin Dr. Chapa has is vitamin J, Jesus. That brings us to joy, Jesus on you. And so there is something to the joy of the Lord is our strength. There's something to a laughter is a merry medicine. There is something to the psychology of knowing where our help comes from and that we can hold fast our confession of hope. So Scripture becomes rooted vitamins that I encourage people to stand on when life gets tough. And life can get tough, like in my situation. Heck, I was made fun of. I could have easily gone down anxiety trail. And as a matter of fact, when I was in my doctorate program, I will tell you, anxiety was rich. I thought I made the biggest $7,700 mistake of my life. I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And my wife had been healed of anxiety when she was early in college. And she gave me Philippians 4, 6, and 7, which is out of the book of the Bible. And it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, some say supplication, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God will that surpasses all understanding will guard your heart, your mind, and your soul through Christ Jesus. And so I realized real quick, fast, in a hurry, where my help was coming from, and that I literally memorized that. That's why I can quote it so easily in a time of need and desperation. That became a lifeline for me. I had it in my pencil pouch, I had it in my bag, and I had it in my back pocket. And so scripture is the root of holding fast that for which I can't control on my own. And so Hebrews 10:23 says, let us hold fast our confession of hope, because the God who has promised is faithful. And it all starts with what I call the P's, vitamin P, prayer and praise. When we pray, when we pray without ceasing, Philippians 4, 6, 1 Thessalonians 5, 16, 17, 18, it says, rejoice always, there's that joy, pray without ceasing, and give thanks, for this is the will of God for you through Christ Jesus. I think we have to get our eyes off our situation and put our eyes on God Almighty, the creator of the universe, and his son, Jesus Christ, in order to take us from glory to glory. Take us from the muck and the mire, the nasty now and now, and realize that the sickness and the diseases that we've been toting around are not things we were called to carry. We can lay those burdens at the feet of the cross and pick up his burdens, because he said his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And when we start to realize his suffering is our healing and our restitution, we begin to realize that the sickness that we've been toting around is a false identity. It is rooted in fear, false evidence appearing real. It is a lie from the devil, who comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and a master deceiver to trick you and get you off track. Because think about it. If we are called to a greater kingdom mindset of interdependence, where we need one another, and it's the village of the people raising up to the next levels in the spirit world, and if the devil gets mad every time a person elevates to the next level spiritually, he's coming after you. He's going to come after you and try to get you into a space of isolation. All good things can be found in his presence, God's presence. And presence produces his promises. His promises produces purpose. Purpose produces provision, and provision produces praise and prayer and thanksgiving. And it is a great place to keep walking that out. And if your body is broken, it's hard to find those spaces. And so when I use scripture and encourage people to stay rooted in faith in the Lord and his power and his provision and purpose, you can go back to 1977. There's a study that they are still doing today on longevity. Everybody wants the fountain of youth. Everybody wants to live long and prosper, right? And they found that if you have something to live for, if you have no medications on board and you have no issues with your teeth, centenarians are the result. So they researched and found that the people that made it to 100 years old had those three things in common: something to live for, they had no medications on board, and they had no issues with their teeth. And so I always teach people, if you're on medications, you have symptom patterns you weren't genetically born with, you're covering them up, you're not well. And the average 40-year-old right now is on 3 to 5 medications. That is not a good indicator for where we're heading.
No, not at all. I didn't know that. That's crazy. So, Doc, functional blood work versus standard labs. What do standard lab tests miss that your approach catches early?
So again, it's all about the concept of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we recognize that it is our life, our health, our choice, we can begin to make the change that we need to make and become not only a changed vessel, but a change agent. So we have to, if we look at blood work the same way we've always looked at it, when we keep getting the same results, we call that insanity, right? So in my world, functionally, we look at blood work through patterns. We have a tighter, narrower scope. We're looking at functional physiology in order to see where's the pattern showing breakdown in the system. Because look, we are all in a degenerating earth suit. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I can prevent death, right? But what I feel like really, truly the Lord has shown me is that I get to put the vim, vigor, and vip back in a person's life. the quality that they're after. And so what does that look like? When I look at a blood panel, I don't just look at a lipid panel for cholesterol and triglycerides. I look at a lipid panel with triglycerides and cholesterol and ratios. The good HDL, the LDL, the subfractionated, fat molecules that make up an HDL healthy or unhealthy, or an LDL healthy or unhealthy. It's a little bit more complex, but that's why you come and see somebody that understands it. Then I cross-reference that with blood sugar. I cross-reference that with hemoglobin A1C. I cross-reference that with insulin or C-peptide in order to see what is the full picture looking like from a fat perspective. Like, are you accumulating bad fats in your body? And is that because of you eating fat, or is that because you're eating sugar, too much sugar? And the answer is B. Most people are eating too many sugars and or carbs that convert to sugars too often, and it's stressing the system out. So then we would look at, okay, cross-reference that over to minerals. Have we depleted our mineral reserves? Without minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, iodine, when we look at these different mineral ratios, all of a sudden we start realizing, wow, my favorite tool only works if I plug it in. And minerals plug your cells together to supercharge them into balance. So we're looking at how your body minerally is leveraging energy for long-term vitality and sustainability. So then we look and go, okay, well, let's just make sure the liver is the giver. How's it performing? If the liver is okay, but we see that they have like high triglycerides, or we see that they have other inflammatory markers like high sensitive C-reactive protein, big word for just fire in the body, fire in the cardiovascular system, fire in the brain. Doesn't really tell you exactly where the issue is, but it tells you that you've got fire, and then not the good fire. The kind of fire I want people to have is filled inside with resurrection energy, not inflammatory fire, and the stuff that shortens a lifespan. We can look at blood patterns and show people where their body's breaking down and why their sleep is off, why their kidneys are malfunctioning, and show them where their metals are building up. And we can help them see that there are now protocols through detoxification that we can use to change those markers. Then compound all that blood work with their history, with their toxicity questionnaire, with their current symptoms of what they're dealing with day to day and their diet. And now I've got a very full picture of a person's life in my hands. And so
Full picture.
I can begin to show folks why their body's breaking down. And when a person gets the why, I don't know if you ever heard of Simon Sinek, but he has a book called Start With Why. If you can understand the why, then you understand the journey ahead, and you're willing to make the changes, and you're willing to go on the hero's journey, and you're willing to overcome whatever, daily disciplines or fights in your own head that keep you from doing what you need to do, because now you've got understanding, you feel heard, you feel part of the process, and I enroll people in the change, and I'm changing alongside them and growing alongside them as I'm getting older myself. I mean, when I was 26 and I started this journey professionally, I was like, how am I gonna really do this, right? And how am I gonna sell chiropractic? I wasn't adjusted till I was 23. Now I'm 46, and I got an adjustment before I got on this podcast. You know why? Because I want to be my best for you, Uncle Jimmy. I want to be my best for my patients. I want to be my best for my listeners. I want to be my best for when we get off this podcast, that I still got some juice to give my kids. And so when I'm attuned structurally, my nervous system's dialed in. When I'm eating clean, my biochemistry's balanced. When I'm walking in Jesus on you joy, my emotional state is stable. And all that builds a place spiritually for me to have an abundance of energy and vitality and longevity opportunity that I can take to bed every night and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is really rad. That's true health. That's true wellness. And frankly, that's transformation. That's even better than functional medicine. So medicine today is looking at a micro piece of the body. Functional medicine is looking at patterns. And then people like me are looking at transformational health, generation jumping health.
Yeah, I think
From where you are to where you want to be and beyond, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. 50 years, all the way down to the end of the line.
You're taking the full picture, right? And I think, modern medicine sort of takes the snapshot, right? Snapshot of what's going on today. You take the full picture from, hey, this is the issue. This is how long it's, and you narrow it down and tell them how they can do it, which is great. So that brings me to the next question, right? You've got 4 kids. How do you protect your family from the toxic food supply while living in the real world?
Well, I want to be honest and real, man. My kids, they have grandparents. I call it WAG
Yeah.
week after grandma's. And so they get poisoned all the time. They go to Sunday schools and they go to friends' houses. The reality is I made a decision that I was going to teach my kids that if they eat these types of foods, there could be consequences in skin health, hormone health, energy, headaches, belly pain, whatever. And I'm not going to scold you. I'm just going to teach you what to do when it happens, and then and begin to just slowly teach them that it's your health, it's your life, it's your choice. Make a good choice whenever you're presented with garbage, and show them the difference between what we call real food, sometimes food, and never food. For example, fast food, I tell them it's never food. Now, does that keep them from eating it? No. But over the course of 5 years, 15 years, 25 years, you know what's going to happen? They're going to start remembering all these things that I'm saying. And so I'm mitigating the amount of insult that they're getting. So the average American right now is eating 11 of the same meals over and over again. They have Taco Tuesday. They have Pizza Fridays. They got, cake and dessert after every meal and cookies at lunch. They have soda pop in the mid-afternoon, and they have, energy drinks throughout the day. They don't drink water. You know what I mean? They have these same rote patterns. And so my kids see a lived pattern before them. Again, I don't expect my kids to do everything I do, but I expect them to participate in some of the things I do so that they're learning. So
Yeah.
the way I protect them is show them. I model it, and then I educate when they have a headache, belly pain, when they have a fever. We don't rush to the doctor. I teach them that fever is normal. Teach them that, constipation is from what they ate. I teach them that their hormones and the skin issues are because of the amount of sugar they're getting into. And I show them through tongue analysis, lip analysis, fingernail health, skin health, how their body is performing, and educate.
Educate.
People go, well, you're so lucky you can do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you can too, because I'm teaching families how to do this every day. And right now I have patients that have I have a concept in my office called when in doubt, we congaplex it out, which means standard process is a product line that I use in my office. And they have a product called Congaplex. And basically it's brain food, gut food, immune food, and basic minerals all in one pill. It should be in every medicine chest across the country. If a person gets sick, they get a sore throat, they get a cold, if they get stuffy, they feel like they're coming down with something, if they'll take a big hefty dose of this stuff every day for 3 days, they'll knock out 90% of it overnight in 24 hours.
Where can they find that product?
So they can go to drchapawellness.com. Actually, this one is shop.justlivewell.com. Shop.justlivewell.com. That is my online store, and they can get that product. And it's Congaplex. It is literally, I would love to see people use this product, because most people would never need an antibiotic again if they would use some of the tools and techniques that I teach about how to stimulate your immune system, how to activate your infection fighting capacity, and how to avoid what bugs do to get stuck and stick to the system and to cause you to stay sick. And so I teach my kids, you can have a lollipop in one hand, but you better have a handful of Congaplex in the other. And they will chew nasty tasting pills and lick a lollipop and be fine. Why? Because I've trained the palate. And so that brings it to the palates. When we think of food, it takes 17 exposures. So you might be somebody that goes, man, I hate eating healthy. It's all right. We'll find something. Everybody can change. I've taken the most autistic child, the most finicky child. I've taken extreme situations of adults that just have been raised to never like a vegetable and changed their diet towards good health. And I saw that lady today, as a matter of fact. She came to see me. She was scheduled to have a stomach surgery. She was scheduled to have knee surgery. She was scheduled to have some other type of, joint surgery. And lo and behold, We've been working with her for 8 months and no surgery, no stomach issues. And she is told me that she goes, you saved me from 2 surgeries and whatever was going on in my stomach, which is essentially just upper GI, a stomach inflammatory disorder from bad food choices. We got her off of all of her medications, and it takes 17 exposures to the palate to adopt a new food choice. 17.
17.
No one has to develop a sweet palate. No one has to develop a salty palate. We really have to develop the sour and we have to develop the bitter. That's the hardest one. But if you can tap all 4 palates together, you'll develop what's called the 5th. And the 5th palate is called a savory palate. That's texture. Texture is everything. And so if you find folks that they hate textures of food and things of that nature, what I tell them is you don't have a bitter palate. And they go, you're right. I hate bitter things. And I'm like, and they go, how'd you know that? I said, because you have a set of palates in your nervous system that when exercised, and eating can be theoretically a neurological exercise. And when you get these exercises right, you have a robust palate that can adopt new food choices that you would otherwise not be able to do. So teaching my kids the 5 palates, the salt, the sugar, the salt, the sour, the bitter, and the savory, brings them to a place where they can recognize fake food, poisonous foods, even if they choose to eat it. You know what I mean?
As long as you continue to educate them, that's great. A couple more questions, Doc, before we finish. So I know you've been on KHEA radio podcasts. What's the biggest backlash you've faced for calling out mainstream health advice?
I think people think I'm real judgmental, and they just say that, you can't pigeonhole the entire, profession into one category. And I go, listen, I'm not. But in my experience, and it's been 21 years of professional practice, and I've been in hospitals at health fairs, right? And doctors will come up and talk to me because I have things like, why do I like sugar? And some of these guys will say, because it tastes so good. They don't teach patients that sugar can kill you. They don't teach patients that food matters. They are only treating pills for ills. And so just the other day, I had somebody chew me out because I said, look, just make sure you make your own educated decision, because when your doctor tells you that you taking the vitamins that I'm telling you, and they tell you that it's garbage and it's causing your liver to be malfunctioning, or they're going to kill you with high vitamin A or high vitamin D, I say that's a load of hooey. I have never in my career seen somebody have any major disease because they had a vitamin D over 100 or a vitamin A toxicity. And the worst symptom that happens, and this is from the Merck manual, the Bible of medicine, they get a rash. Now, they're going to say, no, you can have vitamin A toxicity and cause defects in babies. And I'm like, listen, if they're coming to see a guy like me, they're not going to have fake vitamin A, and they're not going to have synthetic vitamin A manufactured in a laboratory. So they're not going to have high toxicity because their body knows whole food complexes. The body deals with laboratory synthetic garbage. And so if you understand who you're working with and understand that if I have it on my shelf, I have vetted it out. The great Bob Marshall, one of my mentors back in the day, he said that 97.5% of every supplement on the market, 97.5% is garbage. It'll either hurt you or inflame you. 2.5% is essentially, or is it 1.5%? Yeah, 2.5% is going to be satisfactory and do exactly what the label says it should do. And I, over the course of the years, and this guy had traveled the world and he saw this pattern. He was right. I believe that in my 20 plus years and thousands upon thousands of patients' case studies, I have never seen vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids and detox programs in food hurt anybody. And the reason for that is because the body knows food is medicine. And when you use whole food concentrates, when you use clean detox programs that are not chemically forcing the body into a space of unhealth, like an extreme space, and you're assisting the body's natural pathways, you get God's created design. You get the body to work like it's supposed to at the cellular level. Every tissue begins to function like God created it to function, and you start seeing new results come through. And time again, most people today don't really fight me too much on it because they understand. They know that today's insurance companies are driving medical decisions, and they know that I have patients that have more drug interactions when insurance changes their drug to a fake off brand.
Yeah.
And then I have to tell patients, listen, if you have new weird symptoms and you got a new drug, it's the drug. It ain't the supplement.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that too is I have to educate people to understand that supplementation, detoxification is revealing your weakness. It is not a side effect like a drug has in the body. So the pill for an ill, the drug adds if you have headaches, migraines, vomiting, and near-death experiences or suicidal thoughts, stop this pill. That's medicine, guys. If you take the P off of pharmacy, you get pharmacy. And so, but when you take food and detox programs and you build up the tissues, it reveals weaknesses in the body that you can support. And I had this one lady that had leukemia, and it was a blood cancer, and I put her on a program and she had diarrhea for 12 days. And she was pissed. She was upset. And rightfully so. Nobody wants to have diarrhea. But what I asked her, I said, well, let me ask you a question. We put you on a program to drive your immune system to be better, did we not? Yes. I said, we put you on a program to make your metabolism stronger. Yes? Yes. I said, where do you think that cancer was going to go? You think it was just going to vanish like a fart in the wind? And she goes, you could see her wheels start to shift. And she started calming down. And she realized, oh, so you're telling me that you put me on a protocol that made my body work better and it's starting to purge cancer through the poop? And I go, you got it. That's how it works. They go, but doesn't that mean it's metastasizing and it's moving? I said, no. That's called natural processes of detox. That's apoptosis. That's elimination of waste and debris the way God designed it. Your body knows how to get rid of cancer. See, your body, my body, our bodies go in and out of a state of cancer 160 times a day. And the body knows how to deal with that appropriately. Now, what happens is when you are minerally deficient, vitamin deficient, essential fatty acid deficient, or your lymphatics are dirty, your bowels are dirty, your liver's backed up, the system can't get these negative symptoms, cells out of your body fast enough. And so your body has to store them in brain cells, in fat cells, in joint capsules, and they leak. They begin to get out of their cage and run around rampant. They call those free radicals. And those free radicals are like a pinball machine, and they're breaking stuff up and terrorizing your other healthy cells. And one bad apple spoils the bunch, right?
Yeah.
At least it does down here in Texas. And so what happens is these cancer cells, they should be sequestered until the body can deal with it. As long as it doesn't sit there and percolate for years, it won't turn into anything bad and your body will deal with it accordingly. Yeah. And so we oftentimes hear the big C word and we panic. Again, fear-mongering has trained Americans to hear cancer and they hear a death sentence. What I hear is we just got an advanced disease process running rampant in the body that needs to be controlled. And we want to start supporting the body, its natural processes, strengthen the body, and trust the body's natural design to handle some of these big health crises that are going off as alarm systems in the body. And when I teach people that stuff, they start to kind of get it. So today, I really don't get a lot of people telling me, a lot of backlash, but I still get occasional. Seriously, just a couple weekends ago, I had somebody chew me out for making a bold claim, so to speak. But my bold claim is it's your life, your health, your choice. Make your own decision and make sure you trust who you're working with. If you
your
don't
own
trust,
educated decision.
Yeah, if you don't trust your doctor, if you don't trust me, I'm not your guy.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So, Doc, last question, legacy time. When you're gone, what's the one ripple you want to leave? Families healed, fewer heart attacks, people waking up to natural health. What would it be for you, the legacy?
Man, I like all those things. For me, I want to save as many dads as humanly possible. I lost a loved one. I lost my father in my arms. I got to usher him to the pearly gates. And my suffering, I hope and pray, isn't others whenever it can be prevented. And we live in a country today, and I think you could probably relate, where men have been feminized. Our fathers have been made to look less than.
Yeah.
Men are, I'm seeing though a change, which I'm really proud of, men rising up and holding the line. We are warriors for our families. We are the heads of our homes, and our wives need us. Our children need us. And I want to save as many dads as humanly possible. And I want to spare the suffering of loss and a widowed wife, or a lack of parent situation because of a unnatural or a process of disease taking the life of people that could have been prevented if dad would just get educated. And here's the really fascinating thing is I can't get to dad unless I get to mom. Mom makes 99.9% of the health decisions for the family. She makes the grocery decisions. She makes the health decisions. She takes the kids to the doctor and the dentist. And dad's out working his butt off, and he comes home and he's tired. And so what I would love to see is to educate moms and the family to rally around him, to help him eat well, and to remind him how awesome he is, so he doesn't just sit on the couch channel surfing, eating, ice cream and pizza and drinking beer. And so I want to wake dad up, and I want to educate mom up, so that and inspire the kids to spur their pop on in order to be the best version of himself, so he can be a great and awesome granddad.
That
Awesome. Would be awesome.
I just want to appreciate you, Doc. Say thank you. Thank you for coming on, sharing your knowledge. It's been awesome. I hope you had fun.
Uncle Jimmy, I have. And I hope you can, feel the passion, man. I get excited about just seeing what God is doing across the country. And it's messages like this. We have no idea. I think you said it to me earlier. If we change one person, it's worth it.
It's well worth it.
And it's really fascinating, because if we bring it back to my favorite book, the Bible, Jesus left the 99 that he had to find the one. And if he says it's worth finding the one, I will continue looking for the one and influencing the one and inspiring and spurring on the one to go onward, upward, goodward, Godward, in order to be the best version of themselves, so that they can impact their family and become a generation jumper and leave a blessing, a legacy that would impact them through food choices, through natural alternative means, teaching people to avoid medications needlessly and understand that their body wants to heal if they'll just get out the way and trust it to heal itself if they give it the right tools and resources.
Dr. Aaron Chapa just laid it out plain. Your health isn't random. It's a choice. The body God designed wants to heal, but we've got to stop poisoning it and stop fueling it right. From losing his dad young to building a legacy of root cause healing, he's proof that tragedy can birth purpose and pain can fuel prevention. If this hits home, if you're done with the take this pill and hope game, don't just nod along. Hit up drchapawellness.com, check Living Well Clinical Nutrition, dive into his podcast, and take that first step toward real, vibrant living. Doc, thank you for keeping it raw, rooted in truth, and reminding us it's your life, your health, your choice. Choose the red pill, choose healing. Listeners, share this episode with someone who's struggling silently. Tag them, review the podcast, spread the fire. Until next time, stay well and keep pushing for what's real. Thank you so much, Doc.
My man, thanks so much with you too. God bless you.
Thank you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Uncle Jimmy out.